Dress for work shouldn't be this hard. You know what you do for a living, you know what the dress code is, you can just Google or ChatGPT up, you'll be able to kind of more or less guess what are the dressing guidelines that is being put out there. This is not rocket science. You bought the blazer, you have the work trousers, you have the branded shoes, you have even watched enough style content to know all these rules. And still, you stand in front of the mirror, wearing what you're wearing every morning and feel like something is wrong or that you're underdressed, something is not congruent, or maybe overdressed, too corporate, or not corporate enough. Like your clothes don't quite match who you actually are at work or who you are trying to emulate. So they're two sides of the coin, even though on paper everything should work. So to give you an example, the famous fashion rule out there is that you can match all neutral colors together, right? So if you can match all neutral colors together, wearing black and navy, black and brown, it should be fine. But in certain outfits, if you look at it, there's something off about it. It's just not right. Or neutral colors are not counted. You can basically throw as many neutral colors as you want. But if you look at an outfit, it has more than 2 or 3 neutral colors that doesn't have cohesiveness, that doesn't gel together. It can also look off. One of the best examples that I can give you is you look at the runway or your favorite influencer, what they're wearing on social media, or what the mannequin is dressed in. The moment you put it on, it kind of looks very off on you for some reason that is very hard for you to tell. So this video is to share with you, after being in fashion for almost 2 decades now, I'm here to tell you what nobody has told you. Often the problem is not the clothes, it is not about budget, it is not about body shape, it is not about whether or not you get the office dress code wrong. The problem is that you don't have the proper concept of image goal when it comes to what your wardrobe should be looking like. You do not consider your personality function on how it influences your wardrobe and what you wear and how you're wearing it. And that is when there's a mismatch between your reality and what you want to showcase on the inside, or what you are actually showcasing from your personality that is not congruent to what you're wearing. People often say work is work, there's nothing personal about it, but I beg to differ. This is absolutely not the truth. We can separate work-life balance, sure, in some sense. This is still a debate, depending on what kind of player you want to be at work. But I would say that your personality is your personality. You cannot just flip the switch and then become a different personality overnight when you're at work and then switch it off when you come back. They are all intertwined in some sense. So if people don't become very personal about what they wear and really look inwards before they buy the clothes that they are buying, they will save a lot more money, they would maybe have better wardrobe space, and they would be able to maximize the utilization of their pieces, not always wearing that 20 or even less than 20% of their wardrobe all the time. This is because they are not strategic and they don't have the formula when it comes to, this is my personality, this is who I want to showcase to be, and this is how I should wear. Because everything that you put on your body, these are all cues, fashion cues, signals. So wearing a white lace today versus my usual black satin, it kind of sends different visual message. So if people care so much about how their house look on the outside and also interior even more than, why do they not think about what they wear is going to send off a signal that they are not aware of? So your personality type usually is why getting dressed for work can feel hard, because you have not gotten to know how your personality type influences it. And today I'm going to show you exactly how. So my name is Michelle. If you're new to this channel, this is where I explore fashion psychology, specifically on your MBTI type. That is the framework that I've chosen, although I can go into the other personality framework as well, but MBTI, it is so well known that it's gotten me a lot of traction, and therefore For those of you who are naysayers, who are not into MBTI, you can skip away, it's fine. But genuinely want this video to help people with their self-development. So people who are into MBTI, cognitive function, I tell you the relationship of that with clothes and how does it manifest in your personal style or your day-to-day dressing. So rather than looking at your 4-letter MBTI, which is very superficial, I study cognitive function in order to understand how your dominant, your parent, your child, and your inferior function, how does it influences your decision making when it comes to certain clothes that you're wearing, what kind of pattern, and what are more or less clothes that you are more inclined to, whether you are open and open to trends, novelty, and how you would do mix and match, and even up to the point of, do you dress more approachable warmth because of your cognitive function, or do you dress more competent and reputation based because that is what's the most important to you? So every piece that you put on, the signal, it says something, and I help to decode that. So today I'm going to walk you through 3 specific MBTI types, INFJ, ISTJ, and ENFP, and show you exactly how each specific type has recognizable work wardrobe patterns. And then I will give you 3 principles that you can actually use regardless what your type is. Why does your work wardrobe feels wrong? And this is the real reason. Before we get into types, I want to establish something that most style advice completely skipped. Your work wardrobe is not just clothes. It is a daily negotiation between 3 things. Who you actually are, who do you need to be in this context, and who do you think other people need you to be. Every morning you are making, consciously or not consciously, a statement about these 3 things. And when your personality type is in conflict with one of those 3 that I've just mentioned, on who you actually are, who you need to be in this context, and who you think other people want you to be, if it's in conflict in any one of these 3, the clothes will start to feel like a costume. Sometimes it can go against you rather than an intentional expression. Standard style advice ignores this completely. It's all about trends, this core, that core, quiet luxury. It's all the trends that celebrities are making it famous and hot because at that particular moment it feels good. But it's very impulsive, it's not strategic, it's not intentional. It's very much just aesthetic focus rather than the deeper meaning of what actually happens when you wear it. So for example, someone tells you in order to have a wardrobe capsule where you're gonna maximize the value of what you've invested in your wardrobe is being able to wear all those things over and over again. So wardrobe capsule is a very famous concept which I personally advocate and coach a lot of my clients to do. So for example, stick to neutrals, buy a blazer. It's the typical advice, right? The advice is not wrong, but it is the context that we are often forgetting. And because it's context free, so it's very much depending on who it's going to work for. It doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone. Because these things does not account to the fact that it may work well for ISTJ, ISFJ, but for someone who is an ENTP or EFP, the same blazer may or may not help them to express the strengths of their personality. But they're both going to have completely different psychological experiences of that blazer. The ISFJs might feel very reassured by it because they have FE, they are softer in nature, so anything structured, reliable, appropriate is going to make them look a little bit more confident than they originally are. And the ENTP might feel strangled by it because they're like, why am I being so performative and I look too formal? You know, they feel like they are completely somebody else. And so this is the part that we forget, right? Oh, these are the essentials that everybody needs, but then we don't take into, because it's so context free, right? We don't take into account whether it's suitable for their personality type. So same garment, different personality type, completely different wardrobe relationship. Which is why understanding that psychological relationship with clothes is type specific and it has to be fixed. And the fix here has to be style specific too. So let's look at how these things play out practically, because if not, All I'm saying is just theory and nothing is practical, right? Think about this. Every MBTI type has a dominant, a hero cognitive function. The function that leads their mental process, that dominant function that creates specific tension with the professional environment. So work environment have expectations, they have dress codes, explicit or not, it is there. People judge you, even they don't call it out. They will be talking about it during lunchtime, or somebody's going to receive a message somewhere saying that, oh my God, did you see what she was wearing? Yeah, people love to put meaning to things, especially when things are visible and they don't get. That's when people would judge, even as much as they say that they don't judge. People who say they don't judge, I think you can be very careful with them, because they are the ones that are actually inside judging and say that they're not judging. So all these norms in a workplace, right, it's built on things that are pretty standard that we already know. So if you wear very polished, minimalistic, put together, coordinated outfits, you will look more structured and reliable. People will see you in a specific hierarchy if you wear a blazer, if you're a little bit more dressed up, if you wear a watch that symbolizes something. It's semiotics. It kind of sends a signal about visible authority, whether you have authority or no authority, whether you're agreeable or not very agreeable, even are you conscientious or not, or industrious or not. This goes back to the big five. You can see this based on what the person wears. So in other words, what you wear, the fashion signals that you put on, even how you match it, does give people a clue about your cognitive function. Whether or not people know cognitive function, it doesn't really matter. So for example, if you see this person wearing the same thing over and over and over again, you know that they clearly have introverted sensing, whether you know cognitive function or not. Let's say you don't think that they have introverted sensing, you would say something like, this person is so boring, they wear the same thing over and over again, they're probably not very creative and not very open, they're probably also not very extroverted and open to new ideas. So people can put two and two together. They don't need to know the exact terminology of MBTI cognitive function to discern what kind of person you are based on your wardrobe pattern. And then for introverted types, let's not go deep into cognitive function. Let's say some of you are saying that people don't know cognitive function or MBTI as much. How would they see the pattern then? For example, introverts, they would do their very best to dress to look like they're part of the background. If they can look like part of the wall, I think they would, if nobody will approach them. So I have worked with a lot of introverted types. Not specifically INFP, INFJ, doesn't matter. It's just all the I's, introverted, right? They have a knack for wanting to dress to look like they are not part of the group, or they're completely invisible. They would not want people to approach them, ideally. But then they tell me that they have life goals where they want to make a lot of money, they want to meet a lot of people, they want to network. So it's like, it's kind of not going hand in hand. And yeah, they do dress like they don't want to be approached, and that becomes a problem. INFJs, yeah, I talk about INFJs a lot. They do really much dress like an introvert. So I have two kinds of INFJs that I've seen, right? Where one is that they are so into their own NI world that anything that is ethereal, fantasy-like, it's out of the world, because they lack extroverted sensing. They also have extroverted thinking as a trickster function. They don't know how they come off in terms of reputation, status to people, so they will just wear whatever they feel like is aesthetically creative and pleasing. So they can look very much out of place. They can look stylish in certain contexts, but to people, they could look like they are very eclectic or eccentric. And then the other kind of INFJs are completely like in the background. I'm just going to focus on my extroverted feeling. I want to make sure everybody is okay with how I am, how I dress, and they just blend into the background, looking more invisible and more introverted than they already are, which is not going to help them in certain situations. So this is very much context dependent. I'm not saying that all INFJs are like that, but this is the general pattern that we've seen when we work with these personality types. So INFJ's wardrobe pattern is that they typically under-signal. So in a professional context, under-signaling is a career tax. So what do I mean by that is, INFJs they have dominant NI. So this means that introverted intuition is something that goes on deep internally, it's an abstract function. They understand what is going through their mind. Sometimes it's a whirlwind, they don't, but they can put it together and see how it makes sense to them if they actually activate their introverted thinking child function, right? They seek for truth, they seek for accuracy, they go deep into research, then they have a logic of their own. They kind of put this abstract very clearly in their mind. But the moment that it's uttered or is being articulated, it sounds gibberish and completely out of this world that a lot of people are like, wait. We are still talking about this and you are already here. So this is the problem for INFJs, right? That is also their brilliance. It's their problem and their brilliance. So because they have extroverted sensing inferior, their relationship with their own appearance is often one of avoidance. Not because they don't care about aesthetic. There are those INFJs who have maybe really got punched in the face on how important extroverted sensing is. They become very focused on aesthetic appearance. So they are really one of the most polished, I wouldn't say stylish, but one of the most coordinated, polished type out there. You are just like, wow, impeccable, pristine. That is the INFJ. That has worked out their extroverted sensing. But those who do not, they often have the oblivious, the extroverted sensing is oblivious. It means that they are not aware that their aesthetics are not there, that they have to do something with their appearance. But because extroverted sensing requires them to always be in the present reality, to look at sensory, which is fashion, mix and match, all these things is just too much for them. They rather be in their mind. It's not that they rather be in their mind, it's just naturally they're constantly imagining and in their mind so much that the physical part is not a mastery for them, which they have to master because it's there as an inferior function for them to overcome. So at work, how this play out, they get very pissed off with the fact that they are the most brilliant, they have the best idea, but somehow they are not the ones getting seen. They're not the ones being heard. They're not the ones being recognized because they don't dress the part. When their outfit is blended to the background, it's so neutral and forgettable, they lose their identity and people don't remember them because they have lost their physical reality. It's the aesthetic, it's their individuality. Do you have a sense of personal style? Can people remember you based on the impression that you're making, not just what's going on inside your head? So INFJs, your clothes are under signaling, and under signaling, it's a career tax. ISTJ, the safe bet that stops working. ISTJs are the type that most likely have their wardrobe completely sorted and completely stuck. Sorted and stuck. Dominant SI means that ISTJ have an extraordinary memory and structure on what has worked before, and therefore sticking to it traditionally, rigidly is very much what they do. It can be their strength, it can also be their weakness. So they're very aware about things that has worked for them, and for example, if that particular pants or top works for them, they will buy the same color or maybe one or two color that is slightly different, not too much. Again, extroverted intuition inferior. The same color in 10 pieces, and they will wear this for the next 10 years because you never know, right? You might run out from it, it's not reliable anymore. You might as well just get it systemized and sorted out. So once something is working, let's say they find a brand that they love, they just go back to it over and over and over again. They're just super loyal like that. I guess at work, ISTJs, they do tend to create a wardrobe that is competent, that is appropriate, and often excellent in showcasing a very good impression. Because extroverted thinking parent, right? Second function, which means that they care a lot about their reputation and their status, so they do dress as part of it. They have the creative side to them, so it really depends on this ISTJ whether they are in an environment where it's more creative or they are in an environment where they need to dress in a specific way, because ISTJs are not that rebellious. They do conform to societal expectation of them. So let's say if this ISTJ is working in a finance world or a very corporate setting that is less stylish, fashionable, exploration, creative clothes, right? They would be impeccable in that. Quiet luxury, very polished, minimalist. But if they're in an industry that requires them to be very creative, again, competent means, doesn't mean that competent means that you need to wear pinstripe blazer, like a white crisp shirt, a Rolex watch. It's not about that. Competent also means that I need to look like I dress the part and I have that position. So let's say this is the ISTJ that works in a fashion environment. Of course, then they're not going to look like some rigid business person, corporate world, right? They would dress like someone in Devil Wears Prada. They may not have to be ENTJ to dress futuristic or fashion forward, but they have a repeated way of showcasing their style to still look like they are creative, but in their own structure and their own system. Ultimately, looking competent, having reputation, dressing for the part is very important to them. I guess the problem arises when the environment change and their wardrobe don't change. Let's say a promotion that shifts them from an individual contributor or executor to a leadership position or a people manager or a director, right? The status kind of rise. So certain clothes you kind of need to evolve or get rid of because it does not suit the position that you were in before. Or let's say a company goes through rebrand, it quietly becomes there's a shift in the culture. Certain things needs to change. It's whether or not the ISTJ is open to changing or tweaking their system a little bit to adapt to the environment. Again, extroverted intuition prevents them from being open because they know that they already have a structure or system that works. So I think ISTJ reflection point for you is things that have worked for you 3 to 5 or 10 years ago. You kind of need to re-evaluate. Although you're very competent, people are still very influenced by you, but are you really sure that you're in touch with your environment and reality right now? And is it really helping you to fulfill the position next or your current position that you've left? Or because you've left your previous position, you've been promoted, and you've been in this position for a while and you are stagnant, are you doing anything to evolve from that? Let's talk about ENFPs, the coherence gap. ENFPs are often the most visually expressive type. When I say visually expressive, I do not mean that they're the most stylish or most fashionable. It really depends on their taste. But in a professional environment, they are typically inconsistent. They wear things that some people will be like, interesting choice. Like, they are not boring, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So here's why. Dominant extroverted intuition is a function that sees connection between things that are unrelated. They see a lot of possibilities. They look out for novelty experiences. They're all about bringing newness and their energy to... They are very energized by new, trendy things, and they find anything that is familiar rather boring. And so for ENFPs, having a routine or sticking through a system or rule is what suffocates them. And therefore, their wardrobe is usually an exploration, it's often exciting. Look at Gwen Stefani. That's just my speculation that Gwen Stefani is ENFP. She may not be, but based on their wardrobe, she's very much a stereotypical ENFP. So for ENFPs, it's very impossible for them to make coherence over time. They don't look coordinated. They do not have a signature style. Their signature style is basically not having a signature style. If you look at their cognitive function, because they have extroverted intuition and introverted feeling, Every purchase is something that is very much impulse. It's at that point of time, it becomes very exciting for them. But then if you ask them again, why did they buy it, right? They may not remember, or they're going to come up with some story that is not particularly why they have made the purchase. So every individual item reflects a genuine part of who they are at that point of time. But if you try to put together all the pieces, it kind of not go hand in hand together. There's no conceptual unity. It's like you're collecting a piece from every era and fashion and you try to put it all together. It just doesn't go together. So Monday ENFP and a Wednesday or a Friday ENFP, their looks are completely different. So at work, this creates a problem because people cannot build a stable professional image of you. Like, you don't have a stable, reliable image that makes you look like you are someone that is consistent, because you are inconsistent with your dressing, with what you like. You may not like this today, you might like this tomorrow. It just doesn't look like you're someone that can be committed in the long run, or really finish through what you're supposed to finish through. Often ENFPs are the starter types, right? They will just come up with the idea, but somebody else, like the ISTJ, will finish it for them. And funny thing is, ENFPs are often very surprised when we tell them that your inconsistency is what reads as inconsistency. It's weird because, like, you think it's common sense, it's pretty literal, but they don't see that as a problem. They experience it as, I'm not being inconsistent, I'm just being true to myself. Like, I didn't feel like wearing this today, but I felt like wearing this on the other day. That to them is like being real, so it cannot be consistent. So there's a very big debate about that, but I'm on the camp of, if you introduce too many fluctuation or elements, variance in your life, that there's no sense of consistency, therefore equals to no reliability. It's simple as that. That is logical to me. And again, when you see someone that is inconsistent, you cannot predict them. When you cannot predict them, you will have issues with them in terms of your psychological safety. You feel like you cannot trust this person, you cannot rely on this person. So trust building comes from consistency, reliable behaviors. Yeah, your clothes are not your behaviors, but again, enclosed connection. What you wear can shape how you behave, and therefore, in some sense, you do behave according to what you wear. Well, I guess we can't really blame ENFPs for this because their inferior function is introverted sensing. This means that, which is very much, if you focus on what I've mentioned in the ISTJ video, they are so good with being consistent that they appear like they are boring and not open to new ideas. They're not creative, right? So if, let's say, the ISTJ is working in an environment where they want to be appreciated for their creativity and their exploration or being adventurous, that will be very difficult for them if they are always showcasing their introverted sensing, their hero function. Similarly to ENFPs, if they over showcase their extroverted intuition with their introverted feeling, it's how I feel now, I feel tomorrow is different, my authenticity, my exploration, then they will have issues where their inferior function SI, because SI governs consistency. It's about continuity, it's about maintenance. If you don't showcase that, if you have a certain role in life that needs you to be that, it can be a very big problem for you. In summary, these are the three types that I've mentioned quite commonly, and if you would like to find out more about understanding your cognitive function, having someone that is objective to analyze your current wardrobe, to see if it's really helping you with your personality, that is something that I do for one-to-one coaching, but I do intend to start like a paid community, probably on Skool, but I'm still searching for the platform. If you guys happen to know something that it's practical for somebody like me that is just starting out, let me know in the comment section. I would really appreciate it. So I guess my general advice, I can't give very specific ones or else these videos are going to be super long. Your work wardrobe pattern, in summary, what can you do? is to be very aware. Look at your wardrobe and ask yourself, number one, does my wardrobe reflect just my dominant function? Okay? It's just like when I do analysis for INTJs and INFJ, because they have introverted intuition, their wardrobe is the things that they want, only the want, and there's singular vision, and they're kind of similar to ISTJ in the sense where they also go for the things that has worked for them. They're more open to variety, but they are very serious about that look, right? That sometimes it's like overdone, or it can look very intimidating. And so it's when you look at your wardrobe, you need to ask yourself, what cognitive function is it really showcasing? So if you know your personality type, obviously you're watching this video, then you have to ask yourself, okay, I'm an ENFP, I'm going to open my wardrobe right now, and my wardrobe is filled with pattern and colors, and like there are no neutral colors. I cannot really put all the pieces together to create like a wardrobe capsule where it's versatile. You know that you could be over abusing your dominant function more. And that could also mean that you don't really use or exercise your inferior function in any sense. So for ISTJs, if you see repeated colors, patterns, nothing new there, you are just wearing the same thing over and over and over again, you know that introverted sensing is at play too much, and you might be perceived as someone that is not open, that is not so extroverted, that is not so creative or adventurous. So where can you add that sense of adventure and creativity back into it? I think that's one of the most practical ways to look at it, is the awareness piece before you start to develop it. So first, look at your wardrobe, ask yourself, do you have more variety? Then you know that extroverted intuition is at play. Do you have things that are repeated over and over again? You maybe overplay with your introverted sensing. Or you just have very comfortable clothes that doesn't really fit any occasion. You kind of find it very difficult to, whenever you have to attend an event, you kind of look out of place, everybody looks impeccable. You might have very low extroverted thinking because you're unaware of what people think of you. You don't really care about what people think of you, and therefore your reputation could be at stake. People might not take you seriously. So those are some tips that I can give you at the start for you to do some self-awareness. I think that is going to already help you to be a bit more aware, conscious about what you currently have. So if you guys are interested, first thing, subscribe to me. I do post regular videos like this very often. This has become my niche, where I talk about personality type and linking it to fashion, clothing, personal style, developing a signature style, image management, impression. So if that's up your alley, don't forget to subscribe to me, the bell icon somewhere. I do post often, regularly. Follow me on TikTok if you prefer bite-sized videos, if these are too long for you. I am considering a paid community platform, maybe Skool. I will let you guys know. Let me know if you're interested. And if you want to work with me, check out the description below. I might have included my Calendly or some contact somewhere. Or you could reach out to me on Instagram. And that's how I coach people on a one-to-one basis and create a style journey for them to explore, at the same time learn about personality. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.